Good morning. It is Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. Back here for Daily Shakeup number 553. And you don't see me yet because I wanted you to get the point before I shared my point. There's the point. Communication is the real work of leadership. This is such a simple statement and so powerful in the words communication, which we all talk about, rave about, know how important it is, and the context of leadership. And those two words, it's the real work. It is the real work. So let's talk about communication and leadership, and more specifically, a massive, massive gap that is really, it's kind of hard to say it's unconscious because we know what I'm about to share with you. We all know it. And yet it's so often we fall in the trap of not living it and not remembering it. So let me ask this question. When you have any sort of complexity, challenge, conflict, certainly interpersonal issues, what is the worst form of communication? And then think about what's the impact on leadership when we rely on this worst form of communication in these situations. Well, you know the answer, but do we really think about the answer? And what I want to suggest is the worst form of communication. You may already have guessed that it's something in writing. And I'm going to argue that it's actually email. You know, you could say, some people would say, well, the worst form of communication is texting because it's so incomplete. It doesn't even have a lot of words and it's so subject to interpretation. Well, but so is email. And here's the thing, the trade-off with these two. So with text, it's so limited and short often that it's rife with misunderstandings, miscommunication, negative filling in the blanks. The problem is, while we can say, well, we minimize some of that with a longer email, the fact is because emails are longer and we tend to feel that it's okay to send long emails, we tend to put so much in there and most of it doesn't serve us moving forward. We all know, we've known this for decades, that words only cover a small percentage of our communication, right? We all know that. And we know that the vast majority of communication is in the nonverbal elements. So we know that written communication is has a huge risk factor. And the point is that that risk factor is ignored. We believe somehow that our emails are clear and concise and purely informational. Now, see, I will give you that written communication, including emails, is helpful for simple things. I would argue positive things, positive reinforcement, blessings, feedback, or to convey lots of pure information. Really, if it's pure, now here's the problem. Most information is not really information, it's not pure. But if we're doing it in advance of or following up on that conversation, whether it's in person, online, or in phone, I'm not going to get into the value, the benefits relatively of in-person, online, phone. We're separating that from written. But our emails are often and almost always filled with a lot more than just information. It's filled with emotions, judgments, defensiveness, attacks, reactions. And often, and so often, because we don't think about the consequences, our email communication is destructive to trust. It negatively impacts relationships. It diminishes the effectiveness of communication and often moves us away from solutions. Now, why is this? Because emails are easy. Emails are often a place to hide, avoid, and protect. Yes, I know, I get it. They're easier. They don't require scheduling. They're a form of protection. They can allow me to make my point. Emails are not about listening so much as telling, and they allow us to technically communicate any time of the day or night. So there's lots of reasons we love our emails. But do any of those reasons feel or sound like leadership? Isn't the point of communication to build trust and relationships rather than break it down? Isn't the point of communication to listen as much as talk? Isn't the point of communication to facilitate moving forward rather than impeding the process? And isn't communication the point of it to solve challenges rather than avoid them and likely create new ones. Yes, there's a place for written communication, but there's very little leadership in written communication. Let me say that again. There's a place for written communication, including emails, but there's very little leadership in written communication. Leadership is what is about people. And so leadership happens in the trenches, in those one-on-one or group discussions and conversations that, yes, sometimes get messy, but it's where humans interact as humans. And that's where we get to the bottom of issues and really, really solve them. We know this, folks, but think about how easy we default to emails and what's the true impact of that on our leadership, our relationships, our engagement, our culture, our organizations, and frankly, our world at large. That's it for today. Keep taking care of yourself and everyone around you. And by all means, stay connected.